Morning, 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 everyone. I'm not going to put that back up there. So there was a lot of karaokeing and dancing last night, but we still have open slots for the talent show tonight, okay? Because I saw a lot of talent last night. Come on. Get your butt up here. That's what I said. Come on. Don't make me talk to you like that. You know, we family though. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the second day of the Mike Annual Conference. It's so glad to see your smiling faces. I actually plum tuckered myself out and went to sleep and stayed asleep. I actually got like more than 6 hours of sleep. That is amazing. I guess I need to dance more often and sing at the top of my lungs more often. For those of you that took video of that last night, I want to see that. I want to see that on LinkedIn. I don't. But welcome to the second day of the. Here's the microphone. I have the extra mic.
It's all good. I'll take yours.
Yeah, just take mine.
I thought the announcements were going to take a little longer.
Whatever. We have a wonderful panel left for you this morning. What we kind of do is flip the script. So last night's keynote was the Gen Xers, and this morning's keynote is the Gen. What is it? Gen Y. It's millennials. I get it. But Alejandro proudly claims Z, not millennial.
I'm all in.
You all of, okay, he's all things right now. So without further ado, I'm gonna let Tyrone take it over and you guys have a great panel.
Good morning, everybody. Okay, y'all too dead. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Okay, that's better. All right, so one of the problems of having the first discussion in the morning is I don't know what took place last night. Mary alluded to it. I don't know how late y'all were. So it's very possible that, y'all might be a little tired. So to kind of wake you up a little bit, just got a couple of questions. You can just do this by the show of hands. I was going to have you stand up this morning. I have a teacher in me. So, you have to engage students by, having physical engagement, having them moving. But I'm not going to do that. So since y'all are eating and grubbing, let me just ask you a couple of questions. And raise your hand if you are part of this particular group, because I want to get us and the panelists an idea of who's in the room, because knowing your audience is a little important. So, if you were born between the years of 1946 and 1964, please raise your hand. Okay, there's 3 of us. Okay, all right. If you were born, and that's the baby boomers. If you were born between 1965 and 1980, Generation X, raise your hand. Okay, good. All right, we have a mix. All right, the millennials. All right, how many of y'all in here? That's between 1981 and 1996. Okay, great, fantastic. Any Gen Z? That's 1997 to 2013. Okay, there's a couple of you. All right, fantastic. Now, I found out that in just kind of preparing it, that in 1922, well, first of all, as a baby boomer, we had claimed to be the biggest populace in the United States for years. But apparently, as we age, we're slowly dying out. So what's happened in 1922, something interesting happened, is that the millennials now surpassed the baby boomers as the largest populous group. And what this means is that they'll be a major part of the population for many years, which means that, particularly in the area of cybersecurity, for those who are in that, they will be the decision makers coming up. So that's kind of an interesting little stat. So without further ado, what I want to do, let's get into the discussion. Less of me, more of my I would like to say the intelligentsia here. These folks have done a lot, and I'm just proud to be on the stage with them, but it's all about them. So, Tylisha Fields, to my left, she's a board member and director of operations for technology and education at the Social Equity Initiative, a community-based nonprofit organization, is headquartered in San Jose, California. And do you still serve as Director of Operations for Mike also?
Absolutely.
Okay, fantastic. But you operate your office, you are in North Carolina, or you?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Next to Talisha is Kamal Thomas. He's the Vice President of Technology Risk, Goldman Sachs, where he leads strategic risk and technology programs within the Asset and Wealth Management Division. He's also my cohort in our lead communicators program. And next to Kamal, I call him the real AI, Alejandro Ibanez, Head of Security and Compliance at Upwardly. Did I pronounce it right?
Upwardly.
Upwardly, okay, thank you, in Seattle, where he leads cybersecurity initiatives to protect digital landscapes against emerging threats. So that's just a snippet. Please use the Hoover, is it pronounced Hoover?
We call it Hova.
HOA, okay.
There you go.
There's more details about their background. Please use that app if you want to get any more background on them. All right, let's dig into this. Let's talk a little bit about career preparation and education. What steps have you taken or plan to take to ensure you are well prepared that you were well prepared for the cybersecurity career? And
Do I get anybody?
I'm gonna go to Talisha first. She's
All
right
right. Good morning, everybody. First and foremost, I am here representing myself and not my employer. Anything that I say are my views and not the views of my employer. All right. So my career journey into cybersecurity is actually pretty traditional. I did an undergrad in computer science at Grambling State University. Shout out to the HBCUs. And then I went on to Carnegie Mellon, where I received my master's in information security. And actually, that's how I learned about Mary Cheney, Renee Forney, and a few others. They sponsored my scholarship to attend Carnegie Mellon through the Executive Women's Forum. So my path was pretty traditional. And now I would say that my path wasn't as non-traditional as a lot of folks, but I'll let the others kind of share what they have going on.
Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. First time in Texas, so really excited to be here and get familiar with the city. So for me, I had a fairly untraditional background. I went to the University of California, Davis, and studied international relations in Chinese there with the goal of pursuing a career in counterterrorism and national security. I spent some time working in Hong Kong and Beijing as well before returning to the United States. And for me, I got my first introduction to the field of cybersecurity during an internship in college where I worked in DC for the US Department of Homeland Security. I started working on counterterrorism issues like the ISIS terrorist group, and then was notified that cybersecurity was a huge area of concern from a national security perspective. And so they gave me opportunity to do some training and things of that nature, given a person without that background. And it was really profound to really, be able to dive into the field and seeing how huge of a growing industry it would be in the next 5, 10, 20, pretty much for the rest of our lives. And so been at Goldman Sachs now for a little over 5 years now, and managed a number of projects. But I think it's a great industry to be in, and really excited to see where my career and all of our careers will take us.
Yes. Hi, everybody. My name is Alejandro Ibanez. The question was essentially what we're doing for lifelong learning, right?
Your journey.
My journey,
into,
okay.
yes.
Yeah, so I started off at a regional university in Washington State, got my master's in information security at the University of Washington, Seattle. From there, I have been a lifelong learner here and there. I've taken courses on the side and just, I know we're not the biggest fan of certifications here, and I agree with it for a certain amount of purposes. And I got to study under a lot of amazing people throughout my career, and I think I really leaned into the mentorship aspect of cybersecurity. Like, Mary herself has given me a lot of career advice. Some of my favorite mentors, in my own field in Seattle have really provided like the insight and kind of like the ability to self-correct my journey. I originally was going into international relations and finance and like security assurance was kind of like a whole like, oh yeah, let's go. I can do this, but I'm like, I'll stick to auditing for a couple of years. Went to EY and was like, auditing, and turned. Well, it's a what happens in Vegas role here today. I turned my ass around and I was like, no. Started with coding, started doing other things, and then was like, hey, I'm really good at technical stacks. I'm really good at making sure people are compliant. I'm really good at policy as code. I'm really good at platform infrastructure. And then from there, I decided to start building on a team, worked for remittance companies, started using my finance backgrounds and leading engineering teams and saying like, hey, you're gonna go to jail if you keep doing that. And on top of that, started talking about really leading with a security first mindset and more of a security first, but even more into like an auditing first and starting to be able to say, hey, let's start preparing for SOC 1, SOC 2, and let's start talking about compliance standards and like what does that look like? Because I think a lot of us in our careers, we get education, but we don't actually learn what regulatory compliance looks like, and we have to hire some, let's be real, some male, pale, and Yale white dude from Goldman Sachs or insert auditing firm here, and they start to tell us how to do our jobs. So I try to help keep it empowered and keep learning from a different standard, and teaching regulatory compliance on that part was my career.
Thank you. And I'm going to start with you, Alejandro, and for all of you to chime in. So what initially brought you to all talk about your journey, but what initially got you interested into cybersecurity?
2006, the movie War Games? No. Initially, what got me interested in cybersecurity was, one, I wanted to prove somebody wrong. To be very honest with you, I'm petty for a certain extent, and I think pettiness has fueled my career. Not in the way of like, oh, he's bitter. No, I'm too young to be bitter. I wear SPF, I moisturize, I do all that good stuff. It was having a boss tell me, you don't know what you're talking about. When, mind you, this guy had come off a chip of the old block, and he was from like a wannabe like off-brand Amazon, and I was like, you don't know what you're talking about, and you're gonna get this company sued. I left that company shortly after. They did get sued. And I was like, I can do this. Like, you know that TikTok going around, like, it's so easy, so-and-so can do it, which I was kind of like, it's easy, he can do it. I can definitely do it. Like, that's what initially started my journey in cybersecurity. And then I realized that thanks to people like Mary and stuff like that, I wasn't that far off from having the background. And it was just little missing pieces here and there from actually putting it together and saying, like, wow, I was 90% the way there. I was just needed to rebrand myself as a security professional. Yeah.
Say for myself, just thinking back now, I've just realized that next week I'll have been in the cybersecurity field for a decade, which is crazy to think. But I think for me, one, being gainfully employed, I think a lot of us are entering the field and want to be in the field because we, in large part, have a negative unemployment rate, meaning if you're qualified and have the skill set, there's definitely tons of job opportunities for all of us. And for a person with the international relations and Chinese degree, not too many opportunities for work in the private sector. And so that was one of the reasons. And then secondly, I've always had a desire to work on very complex global security issues, and through some of my work with the government, realized that, from a counterterrorism perspective, a lot of that was figured out, and we have a lot of frameworks and thought leadership in that space. And cybersecurity, as a fairly newer field, there wasn't as much, some of those frameworks from a global strategic and policy point of view, and felt like I had an opportunity to add some of that into the field.
Yeah. So for me, as a kid, my mom told me she knew I was going into like information security or cybersecurity because I was messy and nosy. So I think just my curiosity is what prompted me to go into tech in the first place. And then when in undergrad, any research paper that I did, it referred back to Carnegie Mellon. But what really drove me into wanting to do something in the security space was actually 9/11. So it occurred the day before my Sweet 16. And so instead of it being like very happy and upbeat, I kind of just kept seeing the images on the news over and over again. And I would start thinking to myself, what can I do that I'm passionate about, but also can be impactful? And so that's when I started my journey in learning more, started learning about the CIA, FBI, and other intelligence agencies. And so I think just my curiosity around that pretty much pivoted me into this space.
Thank you. All right, changing a little bit. So what are the most significant challenges that you faced in advancing your career in cyber? And we'll go anywhere.
Yeah, I'll kick us off. I would like to say, as a community of minorities and minorities in like cybersecurity, we very much as a community that supports each other. But my biggest challenge has been the field is not new and has been rebranded. It's Male Pale and Yale folks shutting the doors behind them as they got the opportunity to enter the field, when it was like companies were like, oh, we don't know what cybersecurity is, or my insurance is not requiring this. And then they got into it with no barriers, and now they're throwing up barriers behind them, such as an education requirement, such as insert CISSP here, insert random, like, hey, you have to know 10 years of insert random security language here. Like, literally, I had a job posting the other week where I had someone like, you need 10 years of writing Terraform. I'm like, that just came around like 2 years ago. Like, what are you talking about 10 years? And they're like, well, the director wanted it. I'm like, no, like, stop. So you're seeing all these barriers are starting to get put into place that are blocking people of color, folks who are newer to the field. I felt like going through, as we talked about yesterday's panel, where it was really pillow talk, I had to go through and like kind of network and brand my way through the back door and be like, hey, that's a dumb requirement, and here's why. And not necessarily make fun of people who were like putting these requirements up, but kind of like give it to them in a nice little blue box and say like, oh, here's a Tiffany ring, wink, wink, like here's why you're wrong, and kind of like gentle parent them into like, hey, here's why I'm your person, and here's why I'm not your person, and here's what I can do with cybersecurity. And kind of set realistic expectations. I think the whole item that's been a barrier for my career is a misalignment on expectations and career expectations. It's either my hiring company and saying, here's why your expectations are unrealistic, and here's why your barriers are unrealistic, and bring them around and say, here's what we can actually do. What's that part?
Yeah, so from that standpoint, I also think that self-sabotage plays a point too. Like, for instance, we all have imposter syndrome at some point in our career, right? We don't feel like we belong. I'm here to tell you, like, imposter syndrome is nothing but fear. Fear is false evidence appearing real. If you got hired into the position, you deserve to be there, take up that space. And so that's one point. The other is that people need to continue to educate themselves and those around them. Like, for me, I attend 2 to 3 conferences per year so I can understand what the latest trends are. And also build your network. We'll go into that a little bit more. But I think those are some of the barriers to entry, is because we don't know how to get started. There are so many different platforms out there where you can kind of learn and put your foot in the door. And also Mike Lead. Please join the Mike Lead program. We were part of the first cohort, myself, Vernicia, Liz, and Tony, right? And some of you all here as well. And so if you don't know how to get started, come and talk to someone. But I do think that that's one of the biggest barriers, apart from, you know, what we know to be the microaggressions and everything else that we experience in the workplace.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with the both of you. And I think for me, really, and I think it's ridiculous, like the years of experience requirement, right? And a lot of places, they're not looking for entry-level people. They're looking for someone that they can just, you know, pull out the box and say, hey, go ahead, on day one, you know how to do the job well. And I think that inhibits the ability for employers to identify people who have a lot of the drive, a lot of the talent, the people that can really come in and make an impact on the organization over, you know, several years. And so I think we need to move from a culture of, hey, we're just going to hire whoever meets these certifications and requirements, to having more of a coaching and mentoring mindset, where we can bring in younger individuals, people with less experience, people who are transitioning, and have useful skill sets that they've developed throughout whatever previous career that they had, because it all is valuable. And so I think, as we continue to push some of the status quo and try to encourage our organizations to think more creatively about how we can bring people into the field, we'll definitely see some improvement there.
Yeah. We also need more minorities in leadership positions to help change things within the culture and give other minorities an opportunity. So if you have the opportunity to be in a management position, don't fall back from that. Step into it. We have great leaders like Tia Hopkins here who have done that and pretty much put the community on her back. So Tia is a great example of that, and I hope that, more of us do that as well.
Absolutely, thank you. All right, so our field is rapidly, the technological part of it, our field is rapidly advancing. And so I want to know, how do you prioritize your skill development and continuous learning to stay relevant, to stay abreast, to keep up?
I'll start there. It's mandatory, right? It's mandatory for all of us to, be very proactive with how we're self-educating ourselves, because if we don't, we become obsolete and out of date. And so, at least for myself, I set annual goals for myself of, some of it attending conferences and interacting with folks, but also, in certifications and things of that nature as well. But really familiarizing myself with some of the emerging technologies, things like artificial intelligence is very relevant, right? And it's going to be impacting us for the next, 20 plus years. Cloud security, we have so many different technologies that are going to need to be secured, and so it's incumbent upon us to really be proactive in familiarizing ourselves with those new areas and technologies, so we can make sure that we can stay competitive and do our job effectively.
Yeah, for me, I'm in the GRC space, so I stay up to date with regulatory and compliance. And so I think just being mindful, I set Google alerts like crazy to understand what's new and top of mind. And just like Kamal, attending conferences and understanding from the subject matter experts what we should be aware of and what's to come.
Similar to you, not Google alerts. I put security news into my daily news consumption. I learned to take breaks from also setting proper boundaries, but also ensuring that you're not overwhelmed by new information and networking with people who actually know what they're saying, and even a couple folks who don't. Is talking about it. If you can talk casually about a topic, because the reason I said people who don't know is then you know who's bullshitting you. And we've all seen that sales pitch of you need X product, I can do it in 2 days. It's kind of like what Tia said yesterday. I got a master class for you for 30 days on cybersecurity. You want to be very, very, strategic about how you're consuming your cybersecurity news and where you're getting it from. And networking with other folks allow you to see what's coming down the pipeline and set a work lane for that, and say hey, I'm seeing X, Y, and Z come out of San Jose, I'm seeing A, B, and C come out of Europe, and you can start to predict trends and see how it's going to impact your own business. Because at the end of the day, we're all in risk management. We're all about making sure our companies are safe, and more importantly, making sure we're safe. That Uber CEO got away with not going to jail because other reasons, but are we going to be the same? Are we going to be as lucky as the next point of that part? So making sure that you're adding little tidbits of cybersecurity news and making sure you're learning as stuff comes out and being aware.
Thank you. All of you touched a little bit and made mention of skills and certification. So in your opinion, so what do you think is the most sought after skills or certification for career advancement in this space?
CISSP.
For myself in my field, I'd say this. Everybody wants a CISSP. However, I would say when I'm looking for candidates, I'm not looking for certs. I'm looking for if you survived the certification, good on you. I know you can play the Hunger Games. You did the win. However, I'm looking to see could you sit down for 40 days and learn something? Go for it. But you can demonstrate that to me in different ways. I'm not the biggest fan of certifications. If you can demonstrate, I did X, Y, Z on Udemy and I did X, Y, Z on Coursera. I'm if you could take your time, learn a cert. I'm trying my hardest not to cuss up here. and actually like show up and actually say, I switched this with no pressure on anybody else and I did it by myself. That's what I'm looking for versus a certification. If you can show me that you learned Metasploit, insert random tooling here, AWS, whatever, you don't necessarily have to pay for certification. Just tell me that you did it and show me the free version of the certificate. I know Udemy does it, Coursera does it. If you pay for it, it just means you had access to more resources. And I'll be like, cool, give you props on there too. And the skill I'm looking for is, can you sit your ass down and learn something new that I don't have the time for? Because I'm in GRC meetings, I'm in executive meetings, I'm in board meetings trying to talk them off a ledge and be like, here's what I'm advising you on, here's why you shouldn't do that. And I need someone I can pass that on to and be like, I need you to go learn this in like 5 days and tell me how it impacts our org.
Yeah. No, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I have test anxiety, so the certifications path definitely isn't for me because I know that it's going to be potentially a waste of money in the long run, but I gain that knowledge and I study the materials, right? But I kind of agree with Alejandro where I look for what individuals have a background in, the type of studies they've done, the projects they participated in, and what they can bring into the team versus the certifications specifically. So, but for those who want to know some of the most common ones, you have CISA, you have the CISM, you have the Certified Ethical Hacker, CISSP. So there are a ton out there, but I wouldn't say just go and take a certification just because. Actually know what area you want to focus on before you put that time and investment into getting that certification.
Yeah, 100% agree. I think definitely have a game plan if you are going to be pursuing certifications. Similar to the both of you, I'm not a huge proponent for certifications. Especially as being a hiring manager, oftentimes you see long lists. But if I try to have a discussion for you and say, hey, if you are being a consultant for an organization, and on day one, I'm asking you, hey, what are some of the top 5 security controls I need to adopt on day one? And you're talking about zero trust security. It's like that's a non-starter for me. And so I think it's really, obviously, having some of these certifications is important to get through the door to be able to make it to that interview round. However, I think it's way more important to actually have a framework for thinking about security issues and taking a risk management lens to problems and really focusing on, for a lot of us, especially those in the private sector, our job's not just security, right? We need to be secure enablers of business operations. And so coming in with that mindset, I think is very valuable.
Yeah, and to finish it off, I agree with both of y'all. It's really about how well can you influence the security culture. And if you're gonna go, there's that map online that shows like all 8 domains of not all 8 domains, but 8 domains of cybersecurity, and it lists out where each certification falls and the price range for it. If you really want to do something, do a couple generics. Be the jack of like a lot of trades and then say, I can speak about all 8 domains, but you're gonna pay for the one that you need. Like, make your company pay for that cert. Don't go out there spending $10,000 on SAN certifications. Like, that's not worth it. Because I'll tell you this, I have a couple of those SAN certifications, and they're not the, I did it in 6 hours. I think from the outside in, you can look at certifications as this like walled garden and this beautiful, like, oh my God, I just need X to get Y. Some of them are a lot of bullshit. I think that's what I saw when I started getting these certifications, where I was like, this is another way to just make money. And that's all it is like, I'm like, you're gonna tell me I know everything about cloud security in 6 hours? I'm like, no, but yeah, that's what I'll leave it with.
But I will say this, there are some people that aren't like us, right, that do focus on certifications. And so you have to understand what they really are looking for. And if that's the case, join some of the study groups that are available to you. Join the apprenticeship program. Do a lot of the cyber labs and things of that nature that are available to you. So I'm not weaning you away from doing certifications if that may be a requirement for a potential employer. What I'm saying is being strategic about it and be smart with how you approach it and understand how it aligns with your career advancement.
Absolutely. what you said about knowing what you want to do and what's the requirement of the position. For those of you that are interested in the federal space, I live in the D.C. metropolitan Virginia area, so I work for the federal government, and for many of them, the requirement, at least for advancement or to get your foot in the door, is Security Plus. If you're going into cyber ops, cyber operations. Now, of course, we know there's not a lot of avenues to go to, but getting your foot in the door, and that was my first position, working as cyber analyst. But it was required that I got the Security Plus, and once I did that, then everything is golden, and the career took off. So like you said, knowing where you want to go and what's required. All right, let's pivot a little bit. All right, so how do you balance technical expertise with soft skills such as communication and leadership in your career?
I'll start there. Great question. I think that it's very important. So regardless of how intelligent you are, how knowledgeable, how technical you are, it's irrelevant if you can't communicate it, right? And so, when we think of our various stakeholders, some of the other risk functions, compliance functions, the business side of things, it's on us to be able to effectively communicate to them what their risk is, right? And so being able to have some of those soft skills of how can I translate this within the context that they'll be able to understand, what analogies can I use in their language so that they can comprehend why we should delay the launch of this product before we add certain security measures in place. So, really thinking through, obviously you want to have the technical knowledge and expertise, but how can we really present our argument? How can we look to persuade? How can we look to effectively communicate are all very important things and things that we definitely need to focus on as well, beyond just the technical side.
I'm super heavy on soft skills because you can teach people tech, but you can't really teach people to be nice or to have influence. And so for me, I think that comes around with taking, again, mic plug, the communications courses, and just understanding what people value. Yesterday in the panel, Morgan, she mentioned the likability factor. And so if you have those soft skills and you're likable, people are going to vouch for you. People aren't going to always vouch for you for your technical skill set because they don't always have that one-on-one experience in understanding how you're going to execute. But they do engage with you verbally and they understand what your personality is, and people who are likable are people that they want to work with. My soft skills have gotten me to a point to where the roles that I've gotten throughout my career, it was because not of an open job requisition, but because the hiring manager knew me or knew of me. And because of that likability factor, I was able to get the interviews and then lead to those positions. So I think that if you only have technical skills, you're not going to advance as rapidly as someone with the technical skills and the soft skills. So work on developing your soft skills.
People don't. Hello, test. Okay, there we go. People don't care what you did, but they will care about how you made them feel. At the end of the day, whether it's war rooms, you can say so and so solved X, Y, and Z, but he's an asshole, stuff like that. It's okay to be an asshole. You can be stern and still be firm. The issue is making sure you do the work to have the soft skills to take care of the incident after. At many megacorps, you'll realize a lot of people have only stayed there not because they're likable or have the tech skills. It's only because they have the historical knowledge. But you have people who are successful at staying megacorps who have stayed there because they have technical skills, but even more importantly, they have the soft skills to communicate and understand what's happening in large-scale organizations. People like them have that natural ability to be like, I trust you because you do X, Y, and Z, or you take that extra initiative. And trust me, as we said yesterday, pillow talk is a thing. If you don't think your colleagues are talking about you, it's what happens at the end of the day and the happy hour is I forgot who brought it up yesterday, who said, the next civil war is going to be fought in boardrooms, that hit me like a bag of bricks where I'm like, damn, that is so true on a certain level, where I'm like, decisions are being made behind you, and most people don't care about, like, oh, you can have an Excel sheet of 90 things you did at your performance review, but you have to have that list, and we have to go twice as far just to make sure we get like half as much. And part of that is making sure that people feel that they can trust you, that they're comfortable with you, and they understand you, and that you can effectively communicate with that.
Yeah, and I think, Alejandro, you kind of hitting on something. Well, you should know what people's perceptions are of you as well. For an example, I was always on Zoom or WebEx calls with the team, and there would be two other individuals, females. They would be chatting with me about what's going on, or like picking the individuals, or whatever may be the case. And I will respond like with an emoji or something, like a smile or a smirk. Well, it came around when we started having conversations about how people respond in meetings. I was attached to them because I was responding. And so it came off as though I was a douchebag like they were, and it was poor on the team's reputation. And so just make sure that you utilize your soft skills in a good way, I would say. Don't attach yourself to things that could harm your brand. And something as small as like a Slack chat could do that.
The last thing I will add to that too is that really have empathy and go to therapy. I'll say that. A lot of us, we gotta own our shit. You gotta own your baggage. If you own your baggage, you have the soft skills, you can build it, and then you can help. I'm not saying go take on the work and help somebody else own their baggage, but you can then be like, that's not me, and you can create that boundary and be like, that's a y'all thing, that's not a me thing, and I can have empathy to lead this team and lead this to a better moment. Type of thing too.
Take those sick days. Use those as mental health
Yeah,
days.
take your mental health
Absolutely.
days, take your PTOs.
To Alicia, that your comments actually feeds into this next question. Is minorities in this space, we've all faced barriers, be they biases, microaggressions. How have you navigated them as your career has advanced?
I'll kick that off. So how have I navigated some of those challenges? So I work at an investment bank, very different culturally than, in large part my background coming from civil service and things of that nature. And one of the huge barriers, cybersecurity is an afterthought, right? And interacting with peers, building relationships, things of that nature. When you say, hey, like, what do you do at the firm? It's like, oh, I do cybersecurity. It's something that a lot of people may not have a lot of interest in, right? And so I think for me, one of the biggest goals I've had has been really being able to understand the business from back to front. And I'm talking about how does investment banking work? How does asset management work? Things of that nature. And so at this stage in my career, right, I can be able to have conversations with people on how are we structuring mutual funds for the firm? How are we structuring a new exchange traded fund, or what do options contracts look like, and things of that nature. And so now they feel very welcome to invite me into those meetings where we're talking about some new endeavor we're thinking about, because I can speak their language and I can be able to sit in the room with them, understand with clarity what they're discussing, and also insert what are the security and technology risk-related implications of that. And so I think that's been something that I've really focused on over the years, and would definitely encourage you all to not just be an expert in your field and your role, but also take the time to fully understand the business, because that's a great way to add value.
Before anybody responds, so Kamal, so any biases that you may have faced, it sounds like you didn't really talk much about it. So I'm assuming that it's like, okay, they're there, all right, whatever, I'm gonna do my job, and it's like you're like a duck, it's just gonna roll off your back, and you're gonna continue doing your job.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think definitely huge cultural problems, a lot of very elitist culture And so being able to figure out how I can stay grounded in who I am and authentic to myself, and trying to bring my full self to the office, while also trying to like understand how I'm being perceived, and being able to still form those type of relationships, of course, has been a challenge, undoubtedly.
So I've had an interesting career where I've had both service roles and leadership roles. Anybody can lead from anywhere, and I think you have to learn how to do that. You have to learn how to empower folks and influence from positions. I can tell you at one of my previous companies, I had our C-suite scared because they thought I was going to unionize the staff, which is a very, and mind you, I was an IT support help desk. I was the Grim Reaper that took away your laptop when you got fired, but I was also the person who sent you the brand new MacBook right on your first day. I saw it all. I had unfettered access to certain files, which that was not abused on, CISSP, all that fun stuff, insert confidentiality here. I'm not speaking on my employer's behalf. When dealing with microaggressions and having that type of, you gotta kind of dodge it in a way, but I've also learned when to throw my jabs back. And I'm not saying go and fight somebody in the office or anything like that. In certain situations, I learned when to not microaggression them back, but in a way be like, did you think that was a smart thing to say? And make them feel uncomfortable. Throw them back. Like, don't let them push because typically what happens is like, insert microaggression here, insert macroaggression here. And trust me, I work with some people where I'm like, that's just straight aggression. Make them feel uncomfortable. Get good at that. Get really good at being like, do you feel like a bigger executive? Does that make you feel like a big boy today, like type of thing? Oh, like, okay, good on you. Like, oh, I learned to say, if you can get snappy at it and witty, even be like, oh, I guess sense keeps chasing after you, but you keep running faster. Like, insert items like that. And then I'm like, oh, you'll see their reaction change. They're like, one, they'll decipher what you have to say. And two, they're like, oh, crap, I just got read by a 20-year-old or insert, like, person here. Especially when you're alone, have the people who, like, if you can make an executive team laugh at the person who's being racist in the room, you know you won. Like, just straight up. You can be like, oh, well, I know where you come from. I got really good at building that as a defense mechanism, and I got good at dodging my aggressions. When it came as straight aggression, I had to learn to lean on my team and lean on my body of work, because I knew I had a couple of coworkers who were pretty much, let's just call it what it is, racist. They were racist and very much were just starting to attack any aspect of like my credibility, my work, my network, what I was doing. And I knew they were losing when they started coming at it from different levels and trying to, I'm like, damn, you don't work here anymore. Your whole day job is just attacking me. Like, damn. And I had to learn how to disarm them, and learning when to throw my jabs back, and kind of working on myself and be like, hey, I got my work done today. I have my body of work. I got my allies to help me protect. And at the end of the day, that person ended up quitting because they couldn't win. They were very much upset. Like, in meetings too, I was just like, you did all that work for what? Like, and just making them feel uncomfortable in their own, like, racism and their own sense of self, and being like, hey, and I did that not by being like, oh, insert this, insert that, or like blah, 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 and popping off on Slack channels. I just did it by simply, like, killing them with kindness. I drove her mad. She cut me off on 3rd Avenue in Seattle, and I blew a kiss. And I said, like, bye. She was talking about that for months after. It was making them feel crazy and discomfort in their own racism, because trust me, they know what they're doing. They know what they're doing is wrong. They do it because they want you to quit. They want to intimidate you out of the office. They want to bully you. And no one should have to deal with that type of politic and that type of anger and microaggression in the workplace. Unfortunately, the reality of our situation today is that we're most likely to encounter situations like that just for the skin color that we are, the type of people we are, the way we walk through the world. So it's learning how to, one, for me, again, be petty, but be petty in a sharpened sense and not be petty in a way that's very blunt. Thank you to Mary for helping me refine my pettiness through the last couple of years and put it through a professional lens. I think that's what really helped with my executive presence. But don't be afraid to ask those uncomfortable questions, because if you're feeling it, if it's awkward for you, there's other people in the room it probably feels awkward for, especially other executives where they're like, in Seattle, I'm taking too much time, but in Seattle, we have like those white folks who are like very much the bystander effect, who know it's wrong, but they're like, I don't know if I should say anything because like I'm not that type of person, or like I don't want to be associated with a racist. You gotta be ready to make those folks either enable them and say, I need your ass to jump in and get your own person in the room. Like, you brought that person to the company, and here's why you need to either get them done or get them out. And don't be afraid to make someone feel stupid, because at the end of the day, they're doing a stupid action.
Yeah, you know, it's okay for you to take that time to explain that, because you just dropped some golden nuggets there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Looking ahead, what are your long-term career goals within the cybersecurity space, and how do you plan to achieve them?
Okay. I want to piss people off. That's my goal. I'm here to disrupt. I'm here to make people angry. I'm tired of the status quo. I can say that because I'm in a privileged position right now, which is my position. And I don't necessarily have the golden handcuff, but like, I want to be able to disrupt industry and start turning a couple like folks' heads around. Currently working, I'm working for a company who's trying to disrupt the credit platform. I know I sound like a startup guy that's like, invest VC. No, I'm doing this, and I work with companies who are specifically petty towards the majority flow. I worked for a remittance company who was disrupting remittances. Before that, I left that company, took a turn at Facebook for a little bit, but we all know how that came, and left Facebook and came to another company to disrupt stuff. My goal is to end up in the C-suite, but even more so, pushing barriers. And Mary said this yesterday, as you get closer to the top, the sun gets hotter. I don't mind getting burned, but I'm definitely not gonna get burned. I'll take your ass with me if I need to, is my goal. Like, we see the mediocrity in C-suites. Like, and to be very real, I'm not aiming for CISO anymore. I'm aiming for CEO. Like, if I'm gonna take out somebody at the top. And that sounds like a very much like a radicalized view, but let's be real. We need more people in power. I'm down to take a couple blows. I'm down to bring other people with me, and make sure that if anything happens, we're here for it. So I think my long-term goal is I'm tired. I'm too young to be bitter, and I'm a little bit petty. So I'm down to, however, get to the top and start helping people and really switch it on the head. Because as we've seen it too, society has a lot of mediocrity to rise to the top, and we see who's in Congress, we see who's in Senate, we see all these folks, and trust me, we can start throwing blows back. I gladly will. I ain't got nothing left to lose, like type of thing. And ironically, the more shit like this I say, somehow I keep getting raises at work. So I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm doing something right. So I'll say that.
For myself, I've really appreciated the journey that I've been on, and a lot of the early career success that I've had, and I've definitely seen my career as in a series of marathons, and so I'm kind of at the point where I'm looking to transition out of working in-house at a cybersecurity, at an organization within a security function, and looking towards entrepreneurship. And so I'm actually starting the process of looking to start my own cybersecurity software company, leveraging artificial intelligence. But I think there's just tons of space, and right now I think the bad guys are winning. I mean, if you look on the news, any single day you'll see a major cyber attack, and I really want to be in a place where I can help tip the scales in our favor. And so that's something that I'm really passionate about, and excited for that path.
For me, I want to retire at 45, so I got 7 more years to grind. But honestly, it's not so much of what I want for myself. I want to bring people along with me.
Yeah.
I want to help as many people as possible to get into this space, and I want us to begin to build generational wealth.
Yep.
That is my goal of being here solely. I want all of us to walk away richer than our parents were and leave a legacy behind. I think it was Chris Rock. He said, white people leave a will, black people leave a bill. I don't want that to be us, and I want to make sure that we are equipped to excel, put individuals with the passion like Alejandro who want to be CEO in those positions, and to make those hiring decisions that impact us the most.
Okay, thank you. We do have a question that was posted in the app. For the person that posted it, thank you. So They want to know what was the biggest professional mistake on the job, and what was, or how was the impact measured, such as repercussions? Was it a loss of money, lost days on the project, blah blah blah? How did you bounce back from that?
I'll say for myself, I made a huge mistake when I first joined Goldman Sachs. I think it was my second year as an analyst, so fairly junior. And at the time, my team was going through a lot of transition. The head of our team ended up joining the Biden administration, working at the White House, and my boss was on maternity leave, having her second child, and we had a few other people transitioning, and so a lot of projects got dumped onto my plate, and I wasn't sure how to manage that, but for a period of time, I think it was about 8 months, I was reporting directly to our firm-wide CISO, and had a lot of reporting requirements, a lot of programs I was overseeing, and so there was a major program that had attention from the board of directors and the CEO, and I was in charge of being able to aggregate that information, manage the reporting, ensure the program was moving seamlessly. And like I said, it got dropped in my hands after a number of departures. And so essentially, I was trying to aggregate the information and report the current status. And I was just asked the person that used to manage it, it's like, hey, how's the program going? Oh, he said, it's done. I was like, okay, cool, great. So I'm gonna just report it as such. So reported to the CISO. He's about to meet with the CEO and board of directors. And so I prepared his presentation for them, just to find out that the project hadn't even been started. And so I ended up, figuring out the right people that are owning that process. I was freaking out. I was like, okay, I have to, report this before, inaccurate information gets reported to our board and to our regulators, which could lead, to fines for the organization, people getting fired. And so, yeah, I had to escalate it. Called our CISO, I think around like 6 a.m. in the morning, because he had a 9 a.m. meeting with the CEO to discuss his program. And I said, hey, I made a huge mistake. I was misinformed about this project being complete. It actually hasn't been started. And I just wanted to let you know that before you head into that meeting. He said, well, thanks for flagging it to me. Appreciate you getting it to me as soon as possible. Hey, can you come into the meeting and speak with the CEO to discuss the status of that project? And so like I said, I'm 24 at that point in time and still very junior, and only been with the firm probably a little over a year at that point. And I had to go through in that meeting and speak extensively with the CEO and the chief technology officer, indicating what the status of the project is, why it wasn't done, and develop a plan on the fly of what we would do to fix it. And so appreciate having the support of my CISO and understanding that, hey, I made a mistake. But I think the biggest lesson I learned is trust but verify. And so now there's nothing that comes on my desk. I don't report on anything unless I went through and verified it myself. And so I think that's a huge lesson I learned. And we'll never make that mistake again, but appreciate the grace that was extended my way, because I didn't want to get fired for that.
In a similar route to yours, mine is call, check, and confirm. There's nothing that comes off my calendar, my email, or even my text messages about calling something, checking it, and confirming it's real. My biggest career mistake would be, it's not career mistake, it's biggest problem?
Could have cost money or dollars, anything like that. And how'd you bounce back from it?
Fun fact, I broke Instagram globally for about a day. It was my second day at Facebook, I want to say. I was on a core team, and I've never had a mistake literally be put on the global stage. People called 911, like being like, Facebook's not working. This is before the big Meta rebrand, and same as yours. I was reporting into somebody there's a lot of transition in my org. This is back when Meta was doing like 18 reorgs a month, so you don't know who you're reporting to. Stuff is just popping off. At one point, I get handed like a smaller team, a smaller project. I'm like, oh, what's this dashboard do? It's just a pipeline? This is easy, no problem, type of thing. Not realizing that this was a core database and a core essentially it was the thing that makes Instagram populate globally, and I was like, oh, no biggie, like LOL. Uh, my biggest issue is that I was essentially trusting the wrong team, and I wasn't confirming. I was like, oh well, I don't know what this is. Someone just threw it on me. There's no blowback if I forget about it. Like, this was another project owner. This wasn't my to deal with, and now I'm being looped in on 18 different things, and I'm whatever. Bye. I didn't manage upward in that situation to realize the importance of that project and didn't really understand the value of that. So now when I do have something that comes down the pipeline from a different executive, or it comes down from like a board of directors or some sort, I'll call, check, confirm details, and make sure it's at least there, and making sure like, okay, is this a smaller project? Is this something that bounced back? I think Instagram lost $1 million in ad revenue that day. But now I have a Sub-Zero named after me at Meta, and it's definitely fun. The way I corrected and bounced that back was, one, I owned the part that was mine to own, where I was like, look, due to 19 different reorgs in less than 20 days, this project ended up on my desk, which, yes, gave me the responsibility of this project and made me the speed bump down the road. However, I was petty enough, wink, wink, to push back on a couple of VPs where I'm like, if this was of such great importance, why wasn't this flagged down, and how did it get eliminated to one person? Because me versus God, it's between me and God, not me, God, and Facebook, as much as Mark Zuckerberg wants it that way. And we ended up establishing process flows. And the one thing that came out of it was I was able to incident manage the project and kind of lead them out of it and say, hey, because a lot of people, what happens in the situation, especially at Meta, they're like, well, that's my last day, turn in the badge, turn in the card, walk away, get the e-scooter, get the free milk, boba tea, and walk out. I was able to spin it and PR it out and network my way out of it. Mind you, I'm still new at Meta at this point, and I didn't have many allies. So the first thing I had to do was essentially not start using my credibility and leveraging whatever I had to start building this together and kind of being like, okay, let's CC this leader, let's CC this leader, let's pull in so-and-so. Like, what do I have the power to do? And then because I was new, I had the grace of like, he's new, he doesn't really know what's going on here, to start bullying people where I'm like, if it's impacting your org, get in the call. Like, if it's impacting you, get in the call type of thing. And really deciding who from the cream of the crop at Meta I could pull and say, you look like you know what you're doing. Get in the call type of thing, and then manage us out of that situation. Because in this one call, I had to learn infrastructure, learn people's names, learn VPs, and then still be able to say, I'm sorry. But I took blame for what was mine. I helped lead us out of the incident. And then on top of that, I was willing to point out a lot of processes and kind of like say, that's a you problem. Like, this should have stopped somewhere up here in that way. And I got a little bit of grace and got like, okay, yeah, we get it. But having less than 24 hours to solve a global issue, definitely not my brightest point in my career, I'll say on that part.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I'm going to apologize because it's 10:01, and the information that they have shared has been very, very valuable. Oh, okay. All right. Fantastic. The leader has spoken. All right. So with that said, are there any questions from you guys, men and women? Any questions? Yes.
What do you guys wish that other generations would do? Like, what do you wish that we would think about when working with you guys? Like, what do we need to know?
I think in terms of like work culture, understand we do care about work-life balance, and meaning we're not gonna dedicate our life to this job, and understand that I typically explain it as like to organizations, hey, you're subscribing to my services, and so if you want premium services, you got to give me premium pay. But at the end of the day, it's like I set personal boundaries for myself, and so some of that means, hey, I'm not going to be responding to emails after 8 p.m. So if you need to, if it's urgent, go ahead, give me a call on the phone because I'm not checking, right? And so I think, being able to communicate some of those things allow us to have a life outside of the job, and understand that we have other priorities.
I don't want to go to happy hour. If we want to have a team bonding event, do it during the hours that I'm getting paid. Also, pay transparency. I'm going to talk about how much I make. I want to know how much you make. If things aren't adding up for you or I, let's go and figure out how we can fix it.
Radical candor is earned, not given, is what I'll probably say. I'm private at work for a reason, but as y'all have seen here, when we're friends and we're family, I talk to you as if you're my sibling. I talk to you out of love. I talk to you out of empathy. I think one, for the older ones above me, please retire. I would like to own a house, but
Alejandro, I'm not there yet.
Sorry, that's a shade. No, but in all good sense, when working with older folks, I think this one's more particularly targeted at like boomers in a way. It's, you want transparency and traceability going downwards. I expect that upwards as well. I think there's a lot of, I'm not saying don't use discretion at your job. I'm saying be honest with me and own your shit too, versus looking for a person or a speed bump to aim down the road with. I get that in some aspects, in some businesses, they look at like junior people as expendable and quickly to get rid of. However, as we've seen today, there's not many of us in the workforce. So by sacrificing us as a lamb, you're not just taking one of us out, you're probably taking out a whole percentage of there goes the 2% of the black population at this company, or like insert the 1% of Latino at this company. So I expect traceability and visibility upwards and being able to trust you and follow you. Once we have that radical candor, yeah, go do whatever the fuck you want with it. But at the end of the day, you have to earn that with me. Downwards towards Gen Z, I'll say, I'm tired as well. We have all survived the same global pandemic. We have also survived the 2008 recession, insert 2002 COVID, SARS, and all that extra stuff too. Gen Z, I think, sometimes want to blame millennials for everything that's happened in the workforce. I just got here, and I'm working on changing the exact same things that I faced when I was in your position. I think that's my biggest thing. But two, I don't have the energy of a 21-year-old to be going out and like fighting the cause. But I will stand by and support you because I am a see one, do one, teach one, and I will try to empower you and bring you up the same way I got brought up. But give me some grace as well, too, as I try to change stuff in my own position.
Yeah. And boomers, before you retire, document some stuff, man.
Please.
Oh, my God. Like, y'all just be leaving and say, oh, yeah, I'm going in 2 weeks. Excuse me?
And there's not even a OneNote.
Yeah, y'all have all this institutional knowledge, and then you just leave. Like, I'm going to need you to get it together before you go, okay?
Or let me know your hourly fee for advisory services, because if I can hire you back as an advisor, like, yeah, I'll help cut off your pay, but I want you at $500 an hour whenever I need to cry about something or bitch about so-and-so from accounting. So...
Okay, good. That means I got about 2 years to start to get this documentation done, and then I'll come over to you and for that consultant job while I'm chill.
I'm not saying retire and lose your salary. I will hire you back as a consultant or like a executive coach, but like I need some documentation to work off.
That's good. Good. Anyone else? Yes, in the back.
So you all have advanced in your careers in comparison to your peers, and so you talk about mistakes and how you owned up to them. But what are some of the mistakes that your peers have made that hindered their ability to reach the level that you reached? So what did you see as those crucial mistakes that allowed them not to advance in the way that you did?
Not owning their stuff,
Not caring.
right? Pawning it off on everyone else.
Not caring about their own either brand perception, mistakes, or even like just, I get it. There's some days where you got to clock in. You just got to be the 9 to 5 to create your boundaries. But when that starts becoming weeks, when that becomes months, when that becomes years, that's not you owning your career anymore. Yes, we're doing it out of survival, and you got to survive, and your mental health is the most important. But at some point of the line, you got to be like, this job, and get out and start finding what makes you happy. And we've seen that as a common thread among a lot of us where we're like, I wasn't happy at my last job, and I said, fuck this place, and I moved over to the next one.
Yeah, I'll say for me, stop complaining. Just like if there's a problem, fix it, right? I think oftentimes we get into the mindset of, oh, there's this problem, there's nothing we can do about it. Try, right? And I think that really, being able to be a person that gets stuff done is major, right? Regardless of if it's something you own or not. So being able to put yourself in that position and say, hey, what's your problem? I'll come in and fix it. And if you can develop a track record for that, the world's yours.
Yeah, and honestly, sometimes it's nothing that they did wrong. They just don't want to advance. Some people are content with the job they have, and that's okay too.
Yep.
Right? So.
Normalize not being a manager. That is a huge thing. Be a high contribution IC. Don't get the heat if you don't want it. I'll say that.
Okay, good. Anyone else? Okay, I've got the sign. All right, look, I encourage, we're going to get it, everybody wants to take a break. So I encourage you, if you have not already, touch base, one-on-one. If you have any questions, just hit these. We're here in this hallway. Kamari has created that space for that. And we are done. Thank you.
See y'all tonight. We're going to turn up again.